My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. Once you two divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes." "What? What are you talking about? What do you mean?" I had no clue what my mother-in-law was talking about. I never sensed that they were planning to go abroad or that they had been saving up money. "That's because," I said, "my son got $3 million. We're going to live the high life overseas, just the two of us." "Why would my husband go abroad, and what's this about $3 million? Why do you want to know so badly?" "Well, if you really want to know, kneel down and beg, licking my shoes, and maybe I'll tell you." "What's with that attitude? Where is my husband?" "Oh, it's very comfortable here. We're enjoying the high life with my son's $3 million, so you're no longer needed." I was stunned by her words. What on earth does it mean that my husband suddenly got $3 million and is living a luxurious life abroad? The way she spoke about it made me feel like an outsider. I was filled with anger and anxiety, but I needed to stay calm and figure this out. How did my husband get such a huge sum of money, and is that $3 million possibly related to? I work as a manager at a major company. I met my husband in the same department and was drawn to his positive and cheerful nature, which led to our marriage. In the early years of our marriage, his parents warmly welcomed me. Later on, we had a daughter who is now 14. I grew up in poverty, and my parents were toxic. Having faced so many hardships, I was determined to cherish and love my daughter deeply while juggling work and household chores. However, one day, my husband was assigned to a project in Texas and had to move there alone. "It'll be tough living alone with our daughter," I said. "Yeah, taking care of work, household chores, and our daughter will be hard. Let's ask my mom to come over and help out. That might be a relief," he replied. So I reluctantly agreed to live with my mother-in-law. "Mommy, when will Daddy come back?" my daughter asked. "It seems he'll be in Texas for a while, but don't worry, Grandma's coming over." And so my mother-in-law moved in with us. I had no idea that this decision would be the biggest regret of my life. "You're working late again today, huh? Women who neglect their families." I'd come home from work to biting remarks from her. "I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter," I'd retort, but she was never satisfied. When I was young, the family was everything. The thought of working outside never crossed my mind. Then on the day my daughter got good grades at school, she said, "It's all thanks to me." What's the point of you? Maybe we don't need you around. Despite my mother-in-law helping only with simple homework tasks, I'd been the one teaching my daughter most subjects. When I slightly messed up a dish, she pounced. "How did you and my son even survive before with such poor cooking skills?" "I'm doing my best, and everyone has their own way of doing things," I'd snap back. My patience was wearing thin. "She doesn't do her chores," she complained to my husband. "Mom, she's working too. Please try to understand," my husband would chime in. However, living together, the relationship between my mother-in-law and me became increasingly strained. With my husband far away, I felt more isolated. One day I decided to call my husband to discuss this. "Hello, you okay right now?" "Yeah, I'm good." "What's up? It's kind of late." "Well, your mom gave me a piece of her mind about house chores and it's really getting to me." "I'm sorry." Mom's always been a bit sharp-tongued, but maybe she has a point. Still, don't let it get to you too much. Just keep doing things at your own pace. Feeling a bit reassured by my husband's words, I once again dedicated myself to our daily routine. But as my husband was away, the pressure from my mother-in-law kept building, and I was getting more and more worn out every day. I looked forward to my husband's return. Living with my mother-in-law without my husband around was challenging. Initially, I got by holding on to the remnants of my husband's presence, but as days turned into weeks, her behavior grew even more unbearable, and I felt crushed under the weight. She'd nitpick everything I did from dawn till dusk and criticize me constantly. When I made my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly remarked, "This tastes terrible. Who'd eat this?" Whenever I took a short break, she chastised me with, How can a woman who can't even handle household chores take a break? I never had much confidence in housework. With my husband, he'd just laugh off my little mistakes. In front of my mother-in-law, I realized I had no room for error. I think the way she treats me stems from her excessive love for her son. She seems unable to accept that he got married and moved away from her. This experience made me firmly resolve never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after treating myself to a small shopping spree at a local mall, my mother-in-law got wind of it. When I got home, she was waiting for me at the entrance, fuming. "How could you think of going out for fun when your husband isn't home? What do you think is happening with the household chores?" I thought I needed a little break. A break in this situation. All this trouble is happening because of your ineptitude. After that, I awaited a call from my husband. I believed that hearing his voice might lighten my mood, but the content of his call was far from what I expected. "I've got some bad news. My work in Texas isn't going well. I got into gambling and now I'm in a tight spot financially. I've also accumulated quite a debt." "What? Are you kidding me? Gambling and debt? This is way out of line. What's going to happen to our future and our daughters?" "I'm sorry, really sorry. I feel stuck right now, but trust me, I'll find a way." How do you plan to handle this? How much do you owe?" "I'm working on a solution. I always thought of my husband as a sincere person who would never gamble. He was always punctual for our dates, and after we moved in together, he always came straight home from work. He would always thank me whenever I cooked or did laundry. It's because he was so sincere and honest that I married him. But with him away and the constant criticism from my mother-in-law, my life felt unbearable. I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son." My heart was sinking into despair. Since my husband started working away from home, I've been constantly criticized and blamed by my mother-in-law, and my husband's recent confession deepened the despair I felt inside. His debts, the gambling issues, followed by an onslaught of more criticism from my mother-in-law. I couldn't handle it anymore, and one night, I left the house and found myself crying on a park bench. Then one day my mother-in-law discovered a secret from my past. At dinner, she used it as ammunition against me. "So I heard you used to work in a nightclub, huh? Shame on you for raising my grandchild after working in such a place. How did you find out about that?" I was telling an acquaintance about how useless my son's wife is and showed them a picture of you. They recognized you. Apparently, you weren't even good at that nightclub job. In my past, frustrated with a mother who never worked and always partied, I left my family home. Struggling for money, I found work at a nightclub. It was a time from before I married my husband, a secret I believed even he didn't know. I was at a loss for words. I had never imagined my mother-in-law would discover this about my past, and she continued to use this secret to berate me further. "I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild. I'll tell my son and have you kicked out." The depth of my despair grew even deeper. My married life with my husband, all the efforts I've made, and the future I had envisioned, it felt as if everything was taken away with her words. The communication from my husband dwindled. I feared he had started to doubt and suspect me. One night, alone in my room, I reflected on my life, meeting my husband, our marriage, our current circumstances, and the constant blame and accusations from my mother-in-law. I felt I couldn't go on like this. "I can't take it anymore." Whispering these words, I walked out into the lonely nighttime streets. The quiet streets echoed the hopelessness I felt inside. My mother-in-law's words resonated in my head. My past, my secrets, and my present, everything became a target for her criticism and blame. I sat on a bench in a park, staring up at the sky. Not a single star was visible. My heart felt just as dark. Suddenly, someone approached. "Mom, why are you here?" My daughter sat next to me, holding my hand. "Mom, don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at a knit company and you've been through so much. You're strong." "Thank you, but maybe Grandma has a point." "Mom, Grandma's just stuck in the past. In today's world, you should be proud of any job you've done." "I'm proud you worked at a nightclub." "Really? Yes, because it shows you've always tried your best for us, no matter the circumstances. Don't let Grandma's words control you. Hearing my daughter's words warmed my heart, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Mom, you're working hard in it now, right? That's amazing. I'll always be on your side, no matter what Grandma says. Gratitude for my daughter filled my heart. Her support gave me hope that together we could overcome any challenges. Later in my husband's study, I took a deep breath before delving into a mountain of paperwork. I meticulously checked each document, trying to uncover his secrets: bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Slowly, my husband's financial situation became clearer. Why did this happen? I found several receipts from gambling activities: horse racing, slot machines, casinos. Thinking about how much money he had squandered on these activities was heart-wrenching. Next, I turned on my husband's PC. The password was his birthday but reversed. His mailbox was flooded with collection emails from financial institutions and messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. Furthermore, I found a plethora of promotional emails from gambling-related sites. I decided to calculate how much my husband had spent on gambling. The result was an astounding $3 million, far beyond my estimation. Seeing that amount, I temporarily panicked, but there's no time to lose. I began to plan on securing funds to maintain our livelihood. I considered my savings, the expected amount from selling our high-end electronics and luxury goods at home, and the savings from my salary. After that, I continued my own investigation. I strived daily, reaching out to financial institutions to grasp the details of how much my husband owed and where. By obtaining credit information in his name, a few days later I came up with a plan. I began preparations to build a life without relying on my husband or mother-in-law, while also figuring out a strategy to repay my husband's debts. Capitalizing on my experience in the industry, I decided to join freelance projects. For several days, I created a portfolio and registered on a website introducing freelance jobs. Then, a few days later, I received my first request from a client. This will help a bit with our living expenses. In between daily work, I reviewed our household finances. I canceled unnecessary subscription services, cut down on wasteful spending, and researched recipes for savings. I successfully reduced our daily food expenses as much as possible. Moreover, based on information from local mom friends, I tried participating in a community yard sale. I managed to sell some brand items and unnecessary electronics we had, earning a decent amount. A few weeks later, my activities as a freelancer were going smoothly, and I felt that my income was becoming stable. By then, my bank account had a firm amount necessary for living expenses. When I came home, all of my mother-in-law's belongings were gone. Simultaneously, my phone rang. The caller was my mother-in-law. "Oh, are you already home? Noticed our stuff is gone?" "What are you trying to say?" "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. Once you two divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes." I couldn't help but chuckle. Actually, that $3 million is a debt. Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt. You might not believe it, but it's true. In his study, there's transaction records from banks and financial institutions, credit card bills, contracts, and more. Plus, on his PC, there are collection emails from financial institutions, messages from friends demanding repayment, and promotional emails from gambling sites. If you don't believe me, why don't you check? You're lying. It's the result of him getting deeply into gambling, horse racing, slot machines, casinos. All in all, it amounts to a whopping $3 million. I just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look. I had no idea. He probably didn't want you to know, but it doesn't change the facts. I've been pondering how to deal with this massive debt, but I guess I don't have to anymore. My mother-in-law took a deep breath in silence. I truly didn't know. I don't know what to say. Without saying another word, I hung up. I resolved to start a new life from this point on. I was shocked by the actions of my husband and mother-in-law, but moving forward, there's nothing to do but forge ahead for the future of my daughter and me. Later on, my husband called. I'm so sorry, truly I am. His voice was more subdued than I'd ever heard it, yet my anger didn't subside. Why did it come to this? Our family is falling apart because of you. I never thought it would come to this, but when I decided to go overseas with Mom, I couldn't see a future with you and our daughter. I was flabbergasted by his words. You couldn't see. It's because of your carelessness and lack of planning that our family is in this mess. I know that, but it's too late now. I made a promise to Mom. Promise? What promise? One to sacrifice our daughter's future and grab a paradise just for yourselves. My husband was silent for a while. Did you truly love our family? I did, but now it's different. At that point, his voice broke and I could hear him crying. Don't hurt us anymore. My daughter and I are going to live on our own from now on. We'll forget about you. He didn't say anything back. I could only hear his sobbing from the other end. Calmly, I hung up the phone. The reason my mother-in-law confused assets with debts was due to a bill of $3 million that suddenly arrived at our home. She mistook the $3 million bill for a lottery-winning notice. She began planning her dream relocation overseas and approached my husband about it. Unaware of his mother's misunderstanding and thinking starting a new life overseas would allow him to escape the debt problem, he accepted her proposal, mistaking a bill for a lottery notice. After that, I kept my anger towards my husband and began looking for a lawyer. I was set on preparing for a divorce, claiming compensation for emotional distress and child support. Now a new life was about to start, a life for me and my daughter, independent from my husband and mother-in-law. I consulted with a lawyer about the divorce, emotional distress compensation, and child support claims. During this period, my daughter and I spent a lot of quality time together, and she became my strongest supporter. She fully understood my decision and chose to stay with me. Hearing her words made all the hardships, disputes with my husband and mother-in-law worth it, and I couldn't help but shed tears. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and husband were struggling with their life overseas. They tried to start fresh, but faced constant problems due to poor preparation and financial troubles. Things got worse when they were pickpocketed and lost their money. The language barrier made everything harder. Eventually, they were deported for overstaying their visas. Later, I negotiated with my husband through a lawyer. We finalized the divorce, and he agreed to pay emotional distress compensation and child support in one lump sum. Thank you, now I can finally start a new life. But all at once. Wouldn't it be better in installments? He took on even more debt, borrowing from a shady loan shark. I don't know what happened to him after that, and honestly, I don't care. After being evicted and losing her savings, my mother-in-law ended up homeless when she returned to the U.S. My daughter and I started our new life. It wasn't always easy, but freed from my husband and mother-in-law, we could look to the future positively. I want to live happily, working together with my daughter, who saved me from the depths of despair.